All right, all right. Listen, listen. I made a short, said that black people made all the pyramids. And of course, you know, you had somebody saying that it's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Didn't happen. Quit switching the narrative. Quit changing things up to fit whatever. Listen, I'm pro black, but I'm not pro black. Like, I'm not sickening about being pro black. Let's get this straight. I'm not walking around with my fist up. I'm blackity black and I'm black. I'm not doing that. But here's the facts. Here's the facts. For one, the main pyramids that we concentrate on that are in Egypt were not made by the so-called Egyptians who live there now. We know this. They were invaded by the Arabs. That's who came in and invaded them. We know this. We know the people who live in Jerusalem, who are the so-called Jewish people. Matter of fact, there are two different sets of people there now claiming they're God's holy people. You got the Russian Caucasians, who for some reason are like, yeah, we're the Jewish people of the Bible, which is like, how is that even possible? And then you have who? The Middle Easterns. You have the Arab nations that came in. Now, when you look at, Kemet, and you look at all these Canaan and all these other places in Africa where black people come from, and you look at these places, you see images today of white people and other nationalities of people who made all these claims to things that they just didn't do. They did not do these things. We know that there were black people, and there were a lot of them who did all of these things. You guys are going, the richest person in the world was a white man. The richest person in the world has never been a white man. Richest person in the world was Mansa Musa. He was a black man. He was an African. Let's cut the BS. When you look at African dynasties, when you look at the pharaohs, they weren't light skinned and white and light brown. They were dark skinned, tall people. Very tall, very dark skinned people. To live in a region like that, you can't be white. You're not gonna survive. Let's look at in today's world. Why do white people go outside and they have to block themselves from the sun? From the sun. Now let's look at, Egypt. Where do you see a lot of trees? You don't. You don't see a lot of trees, even though at one time it was forested. But you don't see a lot of trees. White people can't survive there. They can't work outside there all day. They'll get cancer. They'll get skin cancer and they will die from it. Okay? The pyramids were made by black people. And there are a bunch of pyramids that are underwater. There are pyramids on every continent. And we know at one time, the whole planet was a Pangea. We know when man started spreading out, they came from the Fertile Crescent, which is, African, okay? Then they spread out to Mesopotamia, boom, 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 spread out into Asia. And let's talk about the pyramids that are in Asia. Once again, at one time, the planet was a Pangea. It was all one. This is why you have lions that were American lions. You got lions that live in India, there are lions all over the place. You got elephants that lived, all of, the Indian elephant, you got the African elephant. They all came from one place. People did the same thing. Black people spread into Asia. Look at the first Asians. You'll notice that they were very, very dark skinned. They were black people. When you do the same thing in Europe, when you go up into Europe, when you look at those people, look, even the emperors, look at these emperors that were, whenever we hear about Rome, we always hear about the white emperors, Ozymandias, all that. Well, Ozymandias was Egyptian, but we hear about all of these emperors, Caesar, Augustus, and we look at all these stories of how great, but they don't tell you that there were black emperors. They don't tell you about that. When you look at all these stories about Hannibal and all these, Nimrod and all these other people, what color do you think these people were? Let's get our facts right. Let's just go back in history. All the pyramids were made by black people. And now when you want to come up here and look at the pyramids that were, made down the street from us in Mexico, all points, that would be south of here, I guess. Anyways, in the Americas, even here in the Grand Canyon, let's take the ones that are made here in the Grand Canyon where we're not allowed to go. There are pictures of those pyramids, and they have very dark depictions of people who made them. Africans. They were all tall, dark-skinned people. And let's just roll on down here to Mexico and all these other pyramids that are there. Look at what before the Mexicans were conquered by the conquistadors, Mexicans did not look like that. The Mexicans now, and people from that region of the planet, they're lighter skinned. And you can't tell them that they were black at one time. They get mad. You tell them that they're white, they're like, yeah, we're white. It's just like, I'm sorry to disappoint you guys. Even the American Indian didn't look like that either. The Seminoles, the Apaches, they didn't look like that. All you have to do is just go back a couple hundred years in history and look for yourselves. They were all dark-skinned people. Very, very, very dark-skinned. As a matter of fact, people are believing now that, the whole story about the slave ships, like, yeah, there were some, slaves that came over here, but the people who were originally here, they were African people. They were already here. This whole we discovered America, you didn't discover nothing. It was already here. When you look at, Quacha Picchu and all those are all very, very dark-skinned people. All of those natives were dark-skinned like African people. All of them. Just go back and look. Before they were invaded. See, when we look at depictions of that they tell us in the stories and in the books, they don't go all the way back to when the invasion happened. They don't even know why the invasion happened. They don't even know why the conquistadors came over here, and why they were able to conquer the indigenous people that lived there so easily. You know why? Because they thought that white people were their god, and that god was named Tiamat. Look it up. But at that time, those people were very chocolate. They were very dark like me. All of them. None of them had light skin in them. They didn't look like that. If you look at, the Mexicans, the people from Guadalajara, and all those nationalities, when you look at them now, they all look like the same skin tone over here. But actually, if you go over to some places, you're going to find very, very dark skinned. Even right now, you'll find dark skinned Mexicans. Very, very dark skinned. They were all black people. And you're like, the Mexicans are the ones who built the pyramids. You're absolutely correct. The ones who live in there, yeah, they built the pyramids, but what color were they? See, you separate Mexicans and Africans because you do it according to what you think today. But you don't do it according to what happened actually in history. Because if you did that, you will go, wow, these are the same people. They're the same exact people. When the earth split up in the Pangea, these people were already spread all over. Look at the people in India. Same thing. Why do you think there's a pyramid on every continent? These people couldn't even communicate once the Pangea happened. How is this possible that there's a monolith on every continent and it looked like they were all built the same way? How did you do this with no communication? Osmosis? How did this happen? Because they were all the same people. They all took their traditions that they had and they kept with those traditions and they stayed with them until, things got divided, until they were conquered. And when you talk about people, who were conquered in Africa, listen, not every place in Africa was conquered. Kemet wasn't conquered. Caesar tried to conquer it, but there was actually an African queen who defeated him. But did they conquer Egypt? Absolutely. They conquered Egypt, and the Africans that were there, or the so-called Egyptians that were there, they fled out of Egypt. They conquered Jerusalem because the Jews in Jerusalem were dark-skinned people that came out of Mesopotamia. They were not white people. They were not these white people with these black hats. This is nonsense. Those people are Russian Caucasians. And the other people claiming that they're the Jews, they're Arabs. And that's how Jerusalem was already divided. East and West was already divided. They were fighting amongst each other. But when you look at what those people looked like back in the day, they were very dark-skinned people. David was very dark-skinned. Jesus was a dark-skinned man. He was a dark-skinned man who had the skin of bronze. And when you looked at his line where he came from, David and David's father and all that, when you start following all the way back to Lamech and Shem and all those, they were all dark-skinned people that came out of Mesopotamia. All of them dark. You can't live in a Fertile Crescent and be a white person. You will die. You will die. You can't do it. You can't. You'll die of cancer. There's a reason why white people are dying of skin cancer. There is a very good reason. You're not supposed to be out in the sun like that. Look at my skin. I have never, ever put on sunscreen. I never had to. I've never been sunburned. Never. I've never went outside worrying that the sun was going to cook me. And I've been in 80, 90, 100 degrees. Never. Never once. It doesn't usually happen to people like me. We get different types of cancer. But when it comes to skin cancer, heavily melanated people, we're blocked from it. It's in our skin. We're blocked from it. Doesn't usually happen to us. When you look at Africa now and look at the hottest regions in Africa, you're gonna tell me white people live there? White people came from there? Near the equator? Near the equator. Near Mount Sinai. White people came from the black people built the pyramids. And then the Jewish people, you know what? I'm going to tell you something. Listen, Jewish people. Stop. Cut the control out. Stop it with the controlling the narrative when we know the truth. I would like it better if Jewish people would come out and be like, it was we're not the Jews of the Bible. We're not. We're just not. We're not dark-skinned people. We didn't come over here on ships. We were never in captivity, and came over here on ships. It never happened to us. We got kicked out of 109 countries for a reason. For one, they don't obey God's law. They don't. When it comes to taxes, God says don't charge people interest. That's what the Jews do. That's how they make money. They charge you interest. The Bible says don't do that. They do a lot of things that go directly against the scriptures. And then they made up their own scriptures. They think Jesus Christ is in hell. That's what they think he is. They say, the Jewish said, they think that Jesus is in hell. And the Muslims say, Jesus, he was a prophet, he died, and that's it for him. He was a prophet who died. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. You don't believe Jesus Christ is Lord? No, because God would never hurt one of his prophets. It's just like, oh my God. And then I'm like, who was out on the cross? That wasn't Jesus on the cross. It was another man that was put up there on the cross. What was the other guy's name? We don't know. And then you read the Quran, and the Quran was made 500 years after the Bible. 500 years after the Bible. And then when you look at Muhammad, himself. Muhammad is a caliphate. He's a caliphate. And no one else, Muhammad said, no one else can be a caliphate. No one else. You can be a crypto caliphate, but you can't be a caliphate. No one else can do. Come on, man. Come on, man. It's just like the Church of Latter-day Saints. Their leader, the angels came down and touched his head and gave him this scripture. And for 7 days, an angel squeezed him, and these prophetic words came out of his mouth. And this is how the Church of Latter-day Saints live. It's like, y'all believe that? Joseph Mormon? Y'all believe that? They tried to come to my door with that nonsense. I ain't never seen them again. They were going around knocking on our doors, and they ran at me. I was like, what's up? They were like, yeah, we're from the Church of Latter-day Saints. I was just like, okay, cool. What's up? We just want, do you know Jesus Christ? I was like, yeah, I know Jesus Christ. I said, let me see your book. They handed me that book, and I opened it, and I said, who's this? And it was a picture of their Jesus. I was like, who's this? They're like, Jesus. I was like, this is not Jesus. And I said, you guys are not reading the Bible if you think that this white guy is Jesus. I said, what does the Bible say Jesus looked like? And the one guy said he had skin of bronze and hair of wool. I said, then who is this? They were mad as fire. They never came back because they know the truth. Don't come here spreading lies. And in the Book of Mormon, it says that black people's skin is like this because of sin. God, listen, in the Book of Mormons, they say that they say, we got this way. We were once white, but we committed a sin and God turned our skin like this. And you want to come in a black neighborhood pitching that trash? I was like, get out of here. They never came back. Don't come back here knocking on my door, telling them lies. I'm in sin because my skin is black. Get out of here. Go put some sunscreen on. Come on. The people who get up, they got upset at Kanye West because Kanye said that black people built the pyramids. The Egyptians got upset about that. I'm like, Egyptians, where do y'all come from? Where do y'all come from? Who was your leader when you stormed into Egypt Where did you come from? For one, when you came into Egypt, you had help. Okay, because the Dutch was trying to get in there. They were coming, they were pouring into Africa long even before Leopold. They were pouring into Africa, and there were other countries that were pouring into Africa because they wanted their resources, which is where we're at now, where the cobalt and all that comes from. That's and the diamonds, and all these wealthy men and women, with all the computers and cell phones. Go look at what's happening now over there. Those are Africans digging with their bare hands for cobalt and then handing it to white people, and then they go make cell phones and batteries for cars. That's where all of it comes from. There's like 15,000 of them digging in the mountain. It's the same thing with the diamond mine. And this is how they live. While, Elon Musk is, parading around like, get out of here. Get out of here. All from the back to African. This is why the European will not take their foot off of Africa, is because of their resources. And now Asia has poured into Africa, and the Chinese have come in there with their promises. We already know what they're going to do. They're going to steal their land, and that's what they're doing now. And now they're treating the Africans bad. You came into their country, and now you're discriminating against them. They're building infrastructures and trains and all this, but when they take pictures, you won't see the black people. You'll only see the Asians. They won't let any black person operate the trains. They're over there. They're over there. They go into villages where these indigenous people live, and an Asian will go in there, and the Africans are just happy to see people. So there's an Asian man going in there, and he's writing in his own language, and he's telling people, these African children, to say that yellow skin is better than black, and the African children have no idea what they're saying. And they're holding up these signs. So the Asian dude will take a picture of it and send it back to China. And it spread all over China, all this propaganda of black people, black children, repeating the words that this Asian man is saying because they have no idea what they're saying. They're saying, we're better than you are, black people. Everybody thinks they're better than black people. I don't get this. How are y'all all better than black people when it comes to the smartest people on the planet, black, the fastest people on the planet, black, the strongest people on the planet, black? It's just like, prove me wrong. In very few sectors does another nationality stand out from us. In very few sectors. When you look at the Olympics and you look at who wins a lot of the things in the Olympics, it's usually a black person. Usually. We don't even want to go to running because when it comes to running, we win everything. Boxing, who are the best boxers in the world? Who are the best fighters in the world? How about MMA? Who's the best in MMA right now? Who's the best? You can't tell. What European is standing at the top right now? What one? The best MMA fighter in the world right now is John Jones. And if you don't take him, you got Francis Ngannou. You can just go on down the line. Usually people come out of Africa. There are some standalone complexes like Big Bjorn Bjornsson, whatever. He's the guy who can deadlift more than anybody else. He wins that competition. Like, there's some competitions that I'm not going to say that. There's some competitions that we don't, for one, we're usually not interested in competing at that level. But nonetheless, there's some standalone complexes. But for the majority, black people take it, and that's just it. The rockets and all those stuff that are being built, you think they're being built by white people. And white people are coming up with, no, what they're doing, especially here in America, what America does is America bullies smart people that come from other countries, especially India and Africa. and they threaten them. They like America is just a big bully. What they do is they threaten to cut them off in some kind of way. America is known for threatening you by sanctioning you. That's what they're doing. If you don't know anything about sanctions, that's what's going on in Russia right now. America, this is how America says, hey, you're going to come over here and help us, or we're going to sanction you. They do it all the time. We're going to cut off your visa. If they cut off their visa, this means that they're not going to give you support in some kind of way. We're not going to send you food. We're gonna cut you off for the Strait of Hormuz. We're gonna put a blockade up. We'll invade you. This is what America does in order to beat you into submission when they want to help you. The smartest mathematicians come out of Africa and India. That's just it. That's it, and that's all. You know, all these diseases that we get over here, some of them they get into Africa, they wipe them out immediately. Immediately. They don't have the same problems we do when it comes to that. Now, some people are like, well, Africa is the grape country. There are countries in Africa that do more graping than, any other. It's just like, wait, what? Hold on. Then they want to talk about, so-and-so country in Africa is the murder capital of the world. It's like, wait, what? Enlighten me. How many world wars has there been? 2. And now we're looking at a 3rd. And in both world wars, who started it? Black people? Because there are millions and millions and millions and millions of people who died when it comes to world war. They're trying to say that black people kill more people than it. It's just like, wait a minute, Hitler? Mao Zedong? That dude that came out of Russia, the dude that was over there in, Guam or one of those places, those are not black people. Even if you took Idi Amin, he didn't even come close to that. Even if you took the war, the Houthis and the Tutsis, that was started by the Dutch. And then you go to Leopold in the Congo, that was 15 million black people dead by the hands of the Dutch. And then when you go to 35 million people died from AIDS, that was started by the Dutch. You people gotta be kidding me when you talk about black people killing more people. Dude, we can't come close to what white people have done. We don't make atomic bombs. We dropped atomic bombs on Japan just to see what they would do. We didn't drop it on Japan because they were a threat. We dropped it on them just to test. That's what we did. That's what America did. Every time they come up with something new, they have to test it. Then they go start a conflict. Just think of how many people those atomic bombs killed in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Black people had nothing to do with that. Look at the famine that's caused in Africa. That's not caused by us. That's caused by the United Nations cutting off Africa in some kind of... Listen, the war that's going on today, you think it has to do with the land that's in a small country that has nothing to do with us, the Ukraine. You think it's over? They haven't even bombed Kiev. They haven't bombed Kiev. They haven't took out any of their basic infrastructures that would stop people from living there. Why is that? It's a test run. That's all it is. They could have ended this a long time ago. Why did America get involved and send $9 billion worth of equipment over there so they can... Russia is fighting with tanks from World War II. And we're over there blowing them up with M2A2 laws. A law is something you hand carry. It's a little. We're blowing $30 million planes out of the sky with a tow and a law. Just backlash area all clear. Bang. No. This is all practice. If Russia really wanted to go into and say, you guys are not, the UN's not coming over here, we're gonna, we want to get whatever the Malinsky or whatever it is. If they wanted to do that, they could have done it. Push of a button, it'd have been all over. I'm trying to tell you this whole thing is fake, but to say that, but to blame, to say that black people even come close to the murders and the mischief that any other nationality has done is completely outrageous. Listen, black people don't start famine. We don't start major conflicts with other countries. We don't. We don't start major. What? Name one. Name one country that black people invaded and started a war. I'll wait. Put it in my life. Name one. Even when the Moroccans were seafaring, when they started a war with Europeans, it was over slavery. But name me one. They didn't even go into their country and invade them. They just wanted them to stop doing what they were doing. And they were Muslims at the time. Name me one major conflict that happened because black people started it. Who did we invade? No one. If you look at Egypt's history and you look at Africans' history, you're going to notice one huge common thing. They were always on defense. Always. They were always on defense. When the Romans came to see them, defense. When the Dutch came to see him, defense. When Leopold came to see him, defense. Always on defense. When the English came to see him, defense. The French, defense. The Arabs, defense. They were always on defense and trying to get their land back, which is what they're trying to do today. Egypt belongs to the Africans. It doesn't belong to the people who occupy it now. Jerusalem belongs to the Africans or the Jews. It doesn't belong in the black Jews. It doesn't belong to the Russian Caucasians, the white Hasidic Jews talking saying if you say something against us, it's anti-Semite. You know how they can use anti-Semite against people? Because most people don't look up what anti-Semite is. You think anti-Semitic is saying something against one of these Jewish guys walking around in a black hat and a black outfit. Has nothing to do with them. Because when you look up what anti-Semite is, it talks about people of color. They're not even close to that. Then it talks about where those people came from. The indigenous regions where they come from. Look up anti-Semite. But they use it as a shield for anybody who says anything about them. But this whole thing that they've been doing is a lie. It is all 100% a lie, and they've been doing it for thousands of years. And they have been using the same thing, badgering people and bullying them and then starting wars and then cutting off people who start telling the truth and then deceiving people and then cutting off their finances, and then going and poisoning people and causing famines and then keeping you poor. That's what they do. Cutting off your oil, they cut off your wheat. This whole thing with Zelensky is about wheat. The Ukraine are major wheat producers. So if you stop them from producing wheat, that wheat goes into other countries, into African countries. It goes all over the world. If those people can't get that wheat, what happens? This is the same thing that happened in Rome. It's the same thing that happened in Rome. when the emperor at the time didn't want to be emperor. He let his friend go ahead and take over. Well, his friend started thinking, well, shoot, you don't want to be emperor, but you have to be. But he let him take control of things. So what did he do? He said, well, I'm going to go and cut off the wheat and starve the people. You know where that wheat was coming from? Africa. It was coming from Africa. So what he'd do is he would stop the shipments of wheat from coming in and then sit them on into his own private stockpile. And so the people started becoming hungry because it has a knee-jerk effect. If you stop it from coming in one place, then other people can't get it. You cut it off, then boom, it starts to catch up to you. Why do you think we're struggling with stuff today? Because of the war. Why are prices going up sky high? You think it's way over there, it has nothing to do with you. Well, how much are you paying for a loaf of bread? Go ahead and like me. Tell me I'm lying. How much are you paying for a loaf of bread? How much are you paying for eggs? Why has the price tripled? Why? Because there are blockades that are stopping you from getting all that you used to get 2 years ago. But that's what happened in Rome. So what he did was he told the people from Egypt, look, take this and put it into my own, little silo that he had. That's what he did. Well, the people started to starve. And when the people starved, they went and it got all the way up to the emperor's ears. The emperor's like, what's going on? He's like, the people are starving in the street. Well, his friend's idea was, well, when the people start to starve and it gets to a fever pitch, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in like the hero and I'm going to have all of this wheat and then they're going to make me the emperor. Well, of course, it got found out. The emperor found out what his friend was doing. He stabbed his friend and then told the guards to take him outside. Well, what did the people do? They ripped him to shreds. Literally. They tore his body from limb to limb. The same thing's happening right now. It's happening right now and it's happening to you. Except you're all in your own little world not paying attention. It's the same thing over and over and over. If you don't believe me, just look. Why do they need more truck drivers? Why are the truck drivers not being able to get what they want? The problems that truck drivers have now, they didn't have 2 years ago. Why all of a sudden they have it now? It's because of the war. Anyways, the pyramids were made by black people all over the continents. And there are more pyramids underwater than there are on land. It's true. You can't show me where there's a pyramid that wasn't made by black people. You can go into China, and I'm sorry, if you look at the time when the pyramids were made, all the people in China were all black. They were all dark-skinned people. None of them look like they do today. None of them. And just look it up for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Go into your history and look it up. You'll find out all these people all look the same. All of them. I'm sorry, but it's true. And it doesn't mean that, I'm still an everyday dude. I'm not walking around going, yeah, my people build the pyramid. It doesn't do nothing for me. It's just the truth. And that's all it is. It doesn't do nothing. It doesn't do a damn thing for me. I don't know how to build a damn pyramid. But my ancestors did. It's your boy Tone 202. God loves you, so do I.